When the pandemic hit, the American Nurses Association quickly innovated and launched strategies and deliverables which proved highly successful in recruiting and retaining members. In fact, ANA is receiving a 2021 Gold Circle Award for its virtual summit, plus the Overall Excellence Award for its member acquisition COVID surge. Congratulations, Steve and Carol. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited to be bringing a behind-the-scenes look into ANA's success. So let's get started. Your team won, first and foremost, the Gold Circle Award for membership recruitment. And during the pandemic, undoubtedly a great time of stress for nurses, your members. What new, unique, different strategies and deliverables proved most successful in recruiting and retaining members compared to what you did previously? Carol, would you start, please?
Thanks, Sarah. Yes, I'd be happy to. So the first thing is, not really a new strategy, but rather we extended an existing strategy in a new way. We already had a very successful content marketing strategy using free webinars to provide valuable information to non-members in order to expand our prospect database for membership marketing. We really put that program on steroids and converted it into a COVID education webinar series, which ultimately reached over 220,000 nurses in just a year.
Wow.
So that's one example. We also moved very aggressively as an organization to extend ANA as a source, as an advocate for nurses, really in every way possible. So that included advocacy, 400,000 letters to Congress, requesting more PPE and protection for nurses, surveys, half a dozen surveys on different aspects of COVID, received input from about 100,000 nurses. We had very strong media visibility at both the national and the state levels as the dominant and really leading voice of nurses. And with each one of those successes, we had yet another proof point about why nurses need ANA. And then probably the most important thing, I think, is that we stayed in the market. We did pause our membership marketing for just 2 weeks in mid-March when things were at their most heated and uncertain. But we used that time to retool our messaging, and we came back with our direct mail, email, and digital marketing programs for new member acquisition and retention, but with all retooled creative, COVID sensitive. And we made our case about how ANA was supporting nurses and asked for their partnership. And our response rates have never been better than they were during that time period. We brought in over 22,000 new members in April and May of 2020. That's like 4 times as many as the year before in those same months.
Wow. So it sounds like you were clearly providing value to your audience during this difficult time through a variety of ways.
Right.
So as I understand it, there were some additional nursing submissions for the Gold Circle Awards, 2 additional ones who won in their categories. Curious to know, why do you think nursing associations and nursing as a profession that work, why is that receiving so much positive feedback right now? Steve?
Thanks, Sarah. So, yeah, we were very proud that when the awards came out, we not only won for membership recruitment, but ANA also won for its virtual summit that won in the event category, and the North Carolina State Nurses Association won in the digital content category for Nurses Week. And, when you think back to the time, and it's been a while, but if you put yourself back in March and April and May of 2020, nurses were put in a completely dangerous, difficult, unacceptable situation. They didn't have resources, they didn't have the appropriate information, and they just didn't have the systems to protect them. And in fact, if you think about it, in that time period, the government, the official channels, the CDC, the FDA, the government itself, which was talking a lot, did not have a very high credibility level and were not the typically counted on sources for information, for policies, and for reassurance, and for advocacy. And that really set up a lot of unmet needs in the marketplace, to keep nurses safe, to advocate for them, to help them treat their patients, and to help them survive what was an unbelievably difficult experience. And, those of us on associations, most of us come here to support the mission of that association. And we found ourselves with the unique platform to truly demonstrate why the world needs associations, why you can't just count on the government to do what they're supposed to do. There was an unmet need, and nurses were at the center of the storm. And we are so proud to be able to step in, and even more proud that AASCE recognized multiple nursing associations. And, again, there were lots of people suffering at that time, but nobody had a harder time than nurses did. So anything that anybody could do to help was necessary, and we're proud to be part of it.
Absolutely. It's really impressive how your association was so quick to respond and innovate. So the membership recruitment submission for ANA not only won in its category, but it was also a pick for the overall excellence award. Again, amazing. And you beat out 14 other category winners and over 300 total nominations. You have much to celebrate. But what do you think made your submission stand out from all the rest? Carol?
Well, we don't really get a lot of specific feedback from the Gold Circle Awards Committee, but I do have my own hypotheses. I would say one thing is the scale of our growth. It was just off the charts, and really very different from what we expected and from what other associations were experiencing. We were just like every other association at the outset of the pandemic. We were facing the possibility of really significant membership declines, and even, forecasting that. And instead, we managed to create more than a year's worth of growth in just 2 months. So I think that was really remarkable and stood out. Also, I think our campaign and our program was a reflection of the integration of many moving pieces, not just the work of one department, but of an entire organization. There were excellent efforts in education and programming, government relations, policy, media, social media, PR, products, events, all of that on a national and a state level with our state affiliates. All of that drove the visibility of ANA to a level that was never previously seen. And so we, as membership marketers, really had that great foundation, and then we could just focus on closing the sale. And the last thing I'll say is we did get some positive feedback from the committee on how our award submission was written and constructed. We had a lot of metrics, a lot of results data, quantitative results data, and we were able to tie the many pieces of this really multifaceted campaign together into one single compelling story.
So clearly ANA was very responsive to change, but for those in our audience, they may be wondering, how the heck did you do this? Because innovation, response, organization-wide response is and can be very, very challenging to achieve. So how did you do it? How did the team go from identifying the need to change to successfully launching these new programs and benefits, as Carol put it, on steroids? Steve?
So it's funny, if you had asked us to describe ANA in terms of quickness and and nimbleness in February of 2020, we would not have sung our praises. It was not something that we really felt was one of our most established characteristics. We're a very established organization, and reliability is definitely something we stress. But we knew what we were facing. You know, our programmatic team was very plugged into the depth, the potential depth, as much as anybody could know how serious this was. And we all knew this was not business as usual. So as an organization, we chose to really create a crisis management structure. We formed a core leadership task force that met 3 times a week, first thing in the morning. We reviewed the challenges in the environment, the unmet needs. We anticipated where the future was going as best we could, and we tried to coordinate our response across the enterprise. And every team, including membership, was plugged in and took on different roles. We all had to step forward and do things that we weren't particularly in our job descriptions. For example, membership partnered with our programmatic team to create the COVID education series that Carol talked about. It ultimately has resulted in a 10 webinar series that is still going. We have over 600,000 viewings between both the full webinar, and we created 5 to 15 minute quick videos for nurses who just didn't have the time. And we got that first video out in about 10 days after first deciding to do it. We had to, because the window was that important for PPE. There were so many unanswered questions. And we had about 100,000 people in the first month sign up.